So many updates and releases to cover, so little time, so let's get right into it with Crying Sun's Last Orders, the latest free update to a roguelike tactics title from 2019, which is estimated to have grossed about $1.4 million, where this is the final expansion to the game, with 2 new factions and their playable battleships, making this even better. Japanese developers Studio Pico and Esquadra Inc. have made some excellent, if underrated, action titles like Kamiko and Transi Ruby, where their latest title is Shinobi non Grata, a classic-looking 2D action platformer that is a self-described hardcore 2D ninja action game with hyper-retro graphics. If you know me, you'll know that this is my jam, where I do like how faithfully they've recreated the old school graphics in this case, and it's not a modern high-bit pixel art title. The action looks fun, but does seem frustratingly challenging in that old school kind of way, making this one to get. This video is brought to you by Survival Academy, a bullet heaven roguelike title which recently got a major update. Set in a world where the pollution levels of the planet have increased to unlivable conditions, things have gotten so bad that the gates of hell have opened up, where our heroes are recruited as parts of the Survival Academy and are the last hope of mankind, descending into hell and conquering it for humanity. For the most part, this retains much of what made games like Vampire Survivors great, in terms of combat, feedback, and things just exploding all over the place on screen, but where they have their own unique twist to it, in that you can choose one main character and 2 support ones, and control a party of 3 in every run. Conceptually, this is based on Dante's Inferno and is centered around descending into the 9 levels of hell, where it does have a level-based structure as a result. You have a home base in the academy, which acts as the meta progression hub area, venturing out to slay monsters after you're done with upgrades, where the screen-filling hordes of enemies and ways that you can absolutely massacre them are a delight, with numbers and gold exploding out of enemies. This is currently in early access with more content to be added, with more modes, characters, stages, items, and more to come. To check it out via the link in the description below. A curious little arcade puzzle game that looks neat is VIVIDLOPE, one where you play as a bunny, traversing around in a 3D environment and rotating as you go along. This reminds me of games from my youth, having a Japanese arcade game feel as well, but does have a twist. Progression in this game, unlike other puzzle games, is non-linear, so you can pick and choose which ones to tackle first, where the variety of power-ups, enemies, and hazards introduces plenty of variables, where you need to colour all the squares in the level the right colour in real time. This is done pretty well for a puzzle game, all things considered, so if you want a change of pace, this is one to get.
War is upon us. A new evil threatens all that we have fought for.
I was pleasantly surprised to have come across Solasta, Crown of the Magister, Palace of Ice, the latest paid DLC for a fantastic fantasy CRPG, where the core game is excellent and has a huge following, which made DLC like this make sense.
Yet, in these dark times,
this adds a new campaign titled The Palace of Ice, being for level 10 to 16 adventurers and will take at least 25 hours to complete, with new playable races like the Gnome and Tiefling, and is a chunk of content. This is the final DLC for the game, where they have packaged the entire thing as the Lightbringers edition, and it's a must-get for CRPG fans, where who knows what they're working on next, but based on the success of this, a Solasta 2 seems likely, or perhaps another CRPG in a different setting. Honestly speaking, Landlord's Super is not my jam, being a first-person simulator title, but this just released out of early access after 2 years and was interesting even when it first launched, primarily due to the setting. From the music of this trailer and the look of the game, you might have deduced that this is set in Britain, but it is in the 1980s instead of modern day, which explains the colour scheme, and is very well done visually. You are running a construction and renovation company, having to build houses by hand, brick by brick, with the usual first-person shenanigans that you can get up to, including going down to the local pub to get a pint. It's weird and visually distinct, which makes this worth mentioning and is a fun time. Kudos to the developer for putting in the effort for this trailer, where Mayhem Brawler Witchcraft is the latest and last major update to this beat-em-up title that has been dismissed as a Streets of Rage 4 clone based on the visuals, but it's a fun brawler game with mutant creatures and more fantastical abilities, which makes this different enough. This of course adds a new playable character in the Witch, as well as a boss rush game mode, where if you love this game, be sure to keep an eye on the sequel, which is in development. Developer Strange Scaffold is one of the most interesting game developers out there with a weird sense of humour, making very weird and experimental indie games, which I have become a fan of, where their latest title is Sunshine Shuffle, a narrative poker simulation title starring adorable animals. It is more than it seems, where these are Robin Hood types who crossed the mob 12 years ago but live to tell the tale, robbing a bank and making off with the proceeds, where you will unravel the narrative and get to know these creatures while playing cards. The developer made a joke that this game would teach children how to gamble, which caused Nintendo to delay the Switch release, so it's a pretty funny situation but has since been resolved. This next title is already stupidly successful despite still being in early access, where Timberbond has you playing as a colony of beavers in a post-human world, having to harness technology and their ability to build and shape the land in order to survive. This developer has always been Spartan with their descriptors, with this update simply being titled Update 4, where there's a lot of technical stuff that I will not go into, but the amount of work that is going into this game is very impressive, which explains its success, where who knows, it might just end up being on the level of Rimworld or Factorial. I know that some of you are big fans of this game, and while I myself am not that fanatical about it, Eterna Noctis is pretty good, where they have made it even better with the Pit of the Damned free update. Most interestingly, this adds 2 new areas named the Pit of the Damned and the Belly of the Beast, bringing the total number of areas in this game to 19, which is a lot, where there's something named Artificial Dimensions as well, which exists outside of the main map, and could be something curious to check out. If you have no idea what this game is, it's a Metroidvania that tells the story of a world created by Supreme God Chaos, where its inhabitants rebelled and turned against him, but he cursed their leaders, the Queen of Light and the King of Darkness, to be in eternal conflict, where you play as the latter just after he was defeated in the latest cycle and has to build up his strength again, where this has good combat and a surprising amount of platforming, so do give it a go if you don't have this. An excellent Metroidvania from 2022 gets even better with this new update, where Haiku the Robot Obscure Information is a free update which adds one new area, 2 new bosses and general improvements to the entire game. There's also a new boss rush mode to play, and this update can be considered as post-game content where you can find more upcoming Metroidvanias here.